Let me get to Mr. Femi Aribisala, who is also a columnist and an international affairs expert. Good evening and thank you for joining us today. Well, very hectic day in Lagos, traffic-wise. But today we're talking about curbing electoral violence, and several committees have been put in place, and well, some recommendations have not been implemented. What's your recommendation concerning how we can reduce to the barest minimum, if not eliminate, electoral violence?
Well, we have a blueprint already. I mean, we've had some 5 elections, and we have been able to curtail violence in them. I don't buy some of the propaganda that has been issued by the opposition. I think we have to have a lot of military presence. I think it's better to deter than to now come after the fact. If there is a lot of military presence on the ground, I think it would deter violence. And I don't think that court judgments can minimize the prerogative of the president. The president has to be able to determine when it is possible for him to deploy the troops to help in safeguarding the peace and security of the election. So I maintain that not just the police, but we have to have a very strong military presence to deter violence on the election day.
Okay, how about, what would you say to those who were of the opinion that the Ahmed Lemu report, the recommendations he gave there should have been implemented, because if that was implemented, we may not be as much worried as we are today about anticipating violence, not just pre, during, but even after the elections?
Yeah, part of the problem is that we have a number of people that are really not Democrats. And so the signs, they don't all go well. I mean, we're already having situations where people are not allowing you to campaign, people are being threatened, the billboards are being pulled down, and buses are being firebombed. And so the signals are not encouraging, and under the circumstances, certain measures have to be taken to foreclose any plans that people are having to disrupt these elections, because these are very vital elections for us. So I maintain that adequate security must be provided on that day, and in order to deter people from taking the law into their own hands.
Okay,
the trends we have been seeing are not very good.
All right, let me get Mr. Marshall's response to this now. He's speaking about one of the comments, the controversies that have been out there about, look, the troops also need to help in here, because if they cite the presence of those forces, who knows, those who had evil intentions may as well just have themselves in check.
Well, I just noticed the philosophical contradiction of what Aribisala just said. He said military should be on ground, and was accusing some people of not being Democrats. The idea of militarism itself is a contradiction of the democratic spirit. A court just said that there should be no soldiers on ground. The idea of soldiers in a democracy is a misnomer. It is a recall to antediluvian logic, which says that some people must have to impose their will on the rest of us, which itself does not hold water in modern times. The Constitution itself says very clearly what the role of the soldier is in a society. It's supposed to defend the country. That is a border issue, and not to become a problem to the country. Because if you bring the military into the society, you complicate the whole idea of security in the civil society.
What about where would you place the comment of one of the electoral commissioners who did say, well, we need the presence of the military on hand, because if that were not the case, it may just go awry?
No, we don't need the presence. I mean, the person does not understand that the only purpose for the soldier in a society, or even in a civil society, are only in times of crisis. And the court judgment from the appeal court was very clear about that when it was ruling on the matter of Ekiti. That why would you take soldiers to Ekiti? And we saw what happened with the tapes and all the corruption that went on with a sitting governor and another one who is a minister or aspiring minister telling a general that he got orders from the presidency and he could preside over the person's promotion. That is impunity. That's what I was talking about when I was talking about the lack of values. When the values have been so distorted and turned into a pot of a mess of porridge, this is what we get. What is the law says that it is the police that's supposed to conduct and elect or to supervise the security aspects of election. This is how it is done everywhere in the world. There's a difference between the soldier and the police, and the functions are quite distinct.
All right, Mr. Aribisala, I mean, Mr. Marshall now says, look, we have to speak to values as well, and that if we go with that, what then becomes of the court verdict that has been handed down? That will be you suggesting, or are you suggesting the disobedience to the court order?
I'm saying that the court cannot usurp the powers of a president. Aribisala is in it. The court cannot usurp the powers of a president. The president has the latitude to use the troops when he sees fit. And we have done it before. And elections have been free and fair. We've had 5 elections with this government. No election held under Jonathan has been overthrown by any court. All the elections, in fact, he's had 5 elections and only one was won by the PDP. So the track record of this government in terms of elections is very, very good. And I'm saying that the signs that we have been getting, especially from the opposition, is that they are not inclined to obey the rules of democracy. That is the problem. They are not inclined to be peaceful. They have not shown signs of being peaceful.
If we look at the arguments that make the rounds, you have now both of you are going at this.
He's saying the court cannot subvert the powers of the president. The question is that it is the president that is trying to subvert the powers of the powers in the Constitution.
How?
So the court is the one that interprets the law for the president to go. That's why we have the separation of powers from Montesquieu. Aribisala must have read political science, I'm sure, and knows that there's separation of powers, from time Montesquieu, in which the judiciary has a role, the legislature has a role, and the presidency has a role. The presidency is an executor of the law, and the law is interpreted by the court. And when the court says this is how